All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to what's going to be a balanced patch discussion, basically. We got patch 3.6 coming at you, of course, Calamity's Corruption. So appropriately named, of course, Calamity, the newest hero to enter Newerth. She came in with this patch, along with many other things, obviously, including a lot of balance changes being a big part of it. So, with that said, we decided to get this segment kind of going for you guys. I'm going to be sitting down with several players, and in this case, co-casters throughout the competitive scene, and basically getting their opinions on several changes that happened in balance, both good and bad, and then, giving them a chance to also, give their ultimate opinion as far as this patch goes, and perhaps what they think about what the future holds and whatnot. So, with that said, as you can see, I'm joined by the one and only Minimaggot here, my co-caster on Honcast. Vinny, how's it going?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good, as usual.
Doing good as usual. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. Here we are, a little bit of a break from Hon Tour, but boy, oh boy, we got a little bit of stuff to kind of fill that gap there. You could say, obviously, with this huge balance patch of 3.6. So first off, just your overall reaction. I mean, we saw this patch. I mean, what was it? How excited were you to see this?
I was really excited to see it because I think there's been a couple of times where, particularly in Honto, where we have seen a lot of variety in picks, but they are starting to get a little bit stale, and obviously there's a few sort of superior picks in terms of sort of the power level. Yeah. Most notably like Swiftblade and Cthulhuphant. So it was nice to have a new change in terms of like nerfs and buffs, which is always a nice thing, obviously. Variety is the spice of life, breakers.
There you go, there you go. Yeah, no, a lot of changes happening. Again, this was ultimately a support-focused patch, and I know both you and I actually are support players, so big fans of this especially. But there was more than just that is for sure. So with that said, again, what I had you do, gather a couple of likes and dislikes. So we're going to kick it off here. One of the first likes I wanted to talk about was the ward change. We've already talked a little bit about this even before. It's been kind of a popular one, but once again, to reiterate, the ward change, specifically this one, where wards now refund half the gold if they expire. So if they're destroyed, then it's a typical you don't get anything back. But if they expire after the full 6 minutes, then you'll get 50 gold back as a support player. So Minnie, why are you such a fan of this change?
Yeah, well, I think it's more... The main reason would be that it increases the gold influx to supports, and supporters have always had a hard time, and although it's only 50 gold, like, I think on average, like, probably supports place, maybe it depends on how long the game is, but maybe like even 15 to 20 wards. And I know it's not that much gold in terms of that, but it's a good start, put simply. And the more gold supports can get, the more useful they feel in terms of the team aspect. And I think it brings a bit more complexity into the game. If the supporters have a bit more gold, then there's another aspect to the game, which makes it a lot more interesting, but also a little bit more complex at the same time. But also, I think it's the mentality to it as well. Like, it's now cores would even perhaps think about warding, because it's like, oh, it's only 50 gold kind of thing. And not only that, I think it sort of encourages good support play as well, because you have to place those wards in a particular way where they won't get countered. We've had a lot of supports that are kind of quoted as like ward masters, like Sender or Z-Freak kind of thing, and this is kind of encouraging and emphasizing that good support play, and I think it's just a nice little extra little bit of a feature, which is nice to see for supports.
Definitely. It seems like it goes both ways too. For the people that are trying to counter ward out, it's even that much more important.
Exactly.
To get the rev ward in there, so prevent that 50 gold from happening. So yeah, definitely a very strong change, and sounds like, of course, one that you're a fan of. So keeping things moving here. Now we'll go to a dislike here, one that you may not have been as big of a fan of. This being a Warbeast change that happened. Warbeast summon Hellhounds now and decrease the mana cost from 125 to 100, and as well as the Metamorphosis, aka his ultimate, the mana cost reduced from 100 to 75. So a little bit friendlier to cast his abilities now. Why are you not a fan of this?
There's two reasons why I don't like it. First of all, I don't think that the changes are that warranted. Like, I mean, Warbeast had maybe a slight issue with mana, but that was kind of a way you could play around him, kind of thing. But that wasn't the biggest. The biggest thing to me is that he's already received to me, a massive buff in this patch. I think there was the feature of the patch where when he uses his battle cry or his war cry, I can't remember, his W, I can't remember what it's called. Yeah. It actually will give assist gold to him, so he could be split pushing off in the map, for example, and still contribute to his team and get assist gold in that. And so to give him that plus these mana costs reductions, I think it's going to be a big deal. And for teams that pick up Warbeast a lot, most notably Sync, we've seen the last couple of games they've been playing Warbeast continually. I think it's an unwarranted buff, put simply. Either you give him one thing in terms of the assess gold, or you give him the mana cost. One of those things. Giving them both, I think, is going to become a very, very popular pick, particularly in competitive play for Sync esports. Nonetheless.
Yeah. And it also obviously helps out his jungling presence too for just the normal TFM scene. It is going to help that presence too. So yeah, maybe a little bit over the top, but we'll have to wait and see.
Who knows? We'll have to see.
Exactly. That's the thing with all of this. Obviously, this is all kind of just theory crafting right now, but that's a good point at the end. So. Now back to good. And now speaking about the assist skull, this happens to be one of the good ones that you really liked here. So go figure. In a sense, it'll help heroes like Warbeast with that battle cry. Any kind of buff put on, any heal done. Players now receive assist credit and gold for providing active buffs, abilities, or healing their friendly combatants. So it really makes it a lot more kind of sticking to that support idea with the patch the mentality as well. So, but you're overall a huge fan of this, sounds like.
Oh, definitely. Because I think there's a couple of supports that don't really offer too much in terms of damage. And normally the first thought of a defensive support, I'm talking about like Jerazai, I'm talking about a Cursed, for example. Those kind of heroes, like your main thought is about defensive sort of capabilities, and that doesn't offer anything to those kind of supports. And I'm not saying this change is going to bring more Jerazai or more Cursed into the play, but it's a good start, put simply. And also, it's really frustrating, particularly when you play support where you feel like you have contributed to something, and yet you still don't get that kind of assist gold. I think it feels like it should have been there from the start, kind of thing. Because although being aggressive is good and all, being defensive at the same time gives a lot of benefits, and I think that should be rewarded. So in this patch, it is. So.
Definitely, it helps infuse a little more gold to that supporting player. And that's the idea there. So.
That's all I'm about. More gold and supports just makes it more fun for the hero and more complexity to the game, which is always nice. So.
Yeah. Now, back over to another dislike here. Maybe not as much of a fan of again. Stormspirit, one of the items that were changed, amongst many, of course. But Stormspirit, already a pretty strong item. Definitely getting some buffs, though. Recipe cost reduced from 1,000 to 800. The move speed increased from 25 to 30. So, may not seem like big number changes, but clearly enough to upset Minimaggot here.
I don't know, because to me, although we don't see the item a lot, I still think the item is honestly one of the strongest items in the game alongside Sheepstick. And we don't see it enough, but having the ability to just completely counter any kind of person's initiation, I think is kind of ridiculous. For example, if you're initiating on one hero in terms of a team fight, if you need to kill that person in a team fight to win the team fight, then having Stormspirit can completely win you the team fight, put simply. And reducing the gold and increasing the movement speed buff, I just don't see why it needs to be buffed. In fact, I think it should be nerfed. But nonetheless, I do like the idea that it's cheaper for supports, but at the same time, I think it's too strong of an item to be getting buffs, just because it allows you to completely nullify anyone's initiation, and there's no counterplay to it as well. That's the problem. You chuck some up in the air, it completely nullifies the team fight. Of course, it perplexes them for 0.5 seconds, but once the initiation's already sprung, for example, you completely counter it, and you can't start over again in terms of the initiation. So
yeah,
to me, I think it's a little bit strong, but at the same time, we don't see it anyway, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. We see it maybe 1 out of 10 games. So it's not big of a deal, but with this change, it might be. Who knows?
Yeah, hey, you expect this is one of those changes that'll definitely at least bring more attention to it, and the idea of it being picked up. So we'll see how Stormspirit change affects things. So now the final change I wanted to talk about here is back to a good one, and boy, what a popular one this is as well, and for good reason. Of course, we're talking about Monarch here. Now, I'm not going to list off every single change. You guys can read it on your screen right there. But she basically got a full-on rework, including her E ability now being able to place wards, which I'll show you guys in a second as well if you don't know yet. But point being, Monarch got some good rework here, and it seems like it's been a pretty positive feedback, at least early on. So, Minnie, you're one of those many positive people with it. Why are you such a fan of this?
Because it was funny, because back when I was playing, in terms of also competing, Monarch was one of my favorite heroes. It definitely now is, but you could never pick it before in terms of the competitive scene, because the power level compared to different supports was just tremendous. The only niche that Monarch fulfilled was against a keeper pick, for example, and even then, he kind of didn't really want to pick it because it just wasn't as strong as other supports. But with this change, obviously, it increases its power level. But I think the biggest thing, honestly, is it's fulfilling a niche now, kind of thing. And that to me is the biggest thing. You know, before everyone used to say, you know, Glacius and Monarch, they're practically the same support, but Glacius is just better in what it does. But now, you know, if it feels kind of like defensive support, but particularly obviously the vision aspect to it as well, which is a massive feature of the hero. And like particularly when you're a captain and a drafter, you want to have kind of each hero to fulfill a certain niche. And if they both do the same things, it kind of shows a little bit of uncreativity in terms of the balance designers. But with this change, obviously, it's really nice to sort of see it. If it fills a niche, and you know, if there is a part of your draft where you need to, you know, have some kind of vision or some kind of defensive support, you pick up Monarch, and just again adds that complexity to the game. And that E, man, the Noxious Cloud is so much fun and so useful as well. Actually, I can't wait to see what the competitors are going to do with it, because I was playing around with it in TMM, and man, does it looks really, really strong. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, the Noxious Nightcrawlers is called now. Yeah, that's a very powerful tool. And no doubt the sexy change to Monarch amongst everything that happened to her. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to see how that impact takes place as far as this patch goes once again. Just like it all. So, that basically goes over all the good and the bad, the ones topics that we wanted to touch on at least. But before we wrap up here, is there anything else, you know, as far as maybe overall with the patch, but even possible changes that you would like to see in a future patch off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like specific I'll buff this hero. I love where the patch is going in terms of, you know, they're buffing the heroes that are not really getting a lot of love. You know, a Curse, it only got like a reduction in like 0.3 like cast animation, but like just something like that is moving them like, or making their power level a little bit stronger, a little bit higher. And it's good to see that, you know, the designers at S2 are giving the, you know, those heroes that are not picked up a little bit more love, and it's good to see that kind of more buff oriented sort of type of balance instead of nerfing side of balance, which is really cool to see. But outside of that, yeah, I'm really looking forward to sort of more patches in this kind of light, because I think particularly with this patch, it's going to utilize or give more heroes that we barely ever see more light in the competitive scene, which is always more fun, man. Variety.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just in time for the holidays, too, so hopefully you guys at home are, of course, enjoying it, and will continue to enjoy it throughout the holidays and for many, many time to come, for much time to come. Anyways, point being, it's a great patch, and you guys should be excited for it, as I'm sure you already are. Now, we are going to be wrapping up here, so thanks again, Minimaggot, for joining us here and giving your input. Appreciate it, as always. And with that said, too, so again, guys, this is just one of several of these that we're doing. So if you haven't checked out the other ones yet, be sure to do that. Yeah, sat down with several pro players from the competitive scene here, and it got their ultimate opinions in terms of a lot of these changes, both likes and dislikes. So definitely check them out. Thanks again, Minimaggot, and thank you guys for tuning in.
Peace.